Good evening, everyone. I am Alex, and I am your host for today on the Green Planet series. Today, I will be answering some common questions our audience has posed to see how each of us can play our part in climate action. Let's start. Our first question is,
what are some examples of renewable energy sources they are trying out to reduce our carbon footprint?
solar and wind power are cleaner and more sustainable energy sources.
Is the transition to renewable energy expensive?
The initial costs are high, but in the long run, investing in renewable energy can create jobs and stimulate economic growth. Natural phenomena on the planet may become less extreme.
Can we deal with the irregularity of renewable energy sources? For example, when the sun isn't shining or the wind isn't blowing?
Yes, recent advancements in energy storage address this irregularity issue, with batteries and other storage solutions becoming more efficient, providing a reliable backup during periods of low renewable energy generation.
How can the developing nations that are still heavily dependent on fossil fuels for their economic development move to renewable energy sources?
We can focus on providing support and incentives for these nations to transition directly to cleaner technologies, bypassing the polluting phase of industrialization.
Are there solutions which ensure both economic development and environmental sustainability?
Yes, it's not just about one solution, but a combination of efforts. From individual actions to international collaboration, finding sustainable solutions to combat climate change requires combined efforts.
How does the lengthy time frame required for altering locked-in infrastructure and institutions pose a challenge in the context of national policies and major energy transformations?
This is indeed a big challenge, but behavioral shifts have the potential to be more rapid and widespread.
Isn't it difficult to keep up with all the new information regarding climate issues?
Sure, it's difficult, yet important for reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
Is reading books about climate change sufficient to deal with the climate issue?
It's better to incorporate learning about climate change into individuals' everyday routines. For example, listening to a podcast on one's way to work or when cooking, using a reusable coffee cup instead of a disposable one, or a reusable shopping bag for groceries. Other measures include unplugging electronic devices when not in use. Even like climate action content on social media while scrolling on TikTok and Instagram would help keep individuals informed and help spread the word by impacting the algorithm.
Can changing habits, such as buying secondhand clothes or reduce airplane travel, help to combat climate change?
Yes, we can take some high-impact personal actions to substantially reduce our annual emissions. Also, having one fewer child can significantly reduce carbon emissions, about 58.6 tons per year for developed countries. It's a drastic step, but the numbers are very compelling. Another substantial action is avoiding airplane travel. A round-trip transatlantic flight contributes around 1.6 tons of CO2 equivalent emissions. Cutting down on air travel could make a real difference.
Can a plant-based diet contribute to combat climate change?
Yes. It's been shown that adopting a plant-based diet saves about 0.8 tons of CO2 emissions per year.
How do high-impact actions, such as a plant-based diet, compare with other simple strategies, such as recycling?
High-impact actions have proven to be more effective than other commonly recommended strategies. For example, comprehensive recycling is only 1/4 as effective as adopting a plant-based diet, and changing household light bulbs is 8 times less effective.
How can governments fight climate change?
Governments have a major responsibility to address climate change. This requires updates to international and national legislation and increased opportunities and investment in research and development to tackle the crisis.
Can citizens influence the politicians to take measures to tackle climate change?
Yes, citizens can use their power to influence the politicians representing them. They can join climate marches, sign online petitions, join the EU Climate Pact, and make informed choices at the ballot box.
How can someone be influential, especially to people whom they don't know?
Citizens' influence on society is bigger than citizens might think. For example, you can persuade your parents to change their habits or a company you work with to listen to you. Even installing solar panels in your home can encourage your neighbors to do so.
Can personal actions have an impact on big companies responsible for emissions?
Yes, in our world, most things you buy, from food, clothes, and energy for your home to your mobile phone contract, are connected to global supply chains and big companies. What you choose to buy or not influences the choices these big companies make.
How close is Europe to climate neutrality?
Europe still has plenty of polluting activities, even though its share of global emissions has decreased over time compared to other major emitters. We still have a long way to go towards climate neutrality by 2050.
Which countries are the biggest emitters of CO2, and how does Europe compare with them?
China and the US are the biggest emitters, but the EU still emits 7% of the global total, which is a considerable amount. And Europe is at the forefront of global climate action. It engages in climate diplomacy at UN COP climate change conferences and has set ambitious goals for the future.
Is it easy to fully implement and strengthen climate commitments?
No, it's a challenge, but Europe stands ready to lead this process. And don't forget the individual actions that you can take to remember that you are making an impact as well.
Does taking action for climate benefit other aspects of our life?
Yes, taking climate action presents an opportunity to address aspects related to personal health, home, and future, as well as the well-being of individuals and locations important to us.
Shouldn't only countries that contribute to the problem take action?
No, a problem is that some areas that have not contributed to the development of the problem will be negatively affected. It's also a generational problem. It will affect humans in the future. And with that, I would like to thank you all for joining this Q&A with us. It has been a pleasure working through some of the tough questions on how to effectively tackle climate change. Stay tuned for our next episodes. Until then, think greener.